Oh, whatever. All these fuckers need this tournament for their precious little qualifier points. Oh, I need this little qualifier points or I'm not going to make it to mid-sets or regionals. Ooh. But me, I'm a fucking beast, man. I qualify through ladder. The most high-skilled, high sample size, most skill testing environment. I'm going to regionals through ladder. Fuck the tournament. I'm out. Peace. Hello, everyone. Welcome back for another episode of Don't Talk If You Don't Know, the official podcast dedicated to all things high-level teamfight tactics in North America. My name is Frody, and I am your host as always. Today is August 17, 2023, and this is the Shurima Cup Reviewed, where we go over what happened this past weekend, all the events, and the cool storylines with some special guests. And starting off the special guests, today we don't have Bryce Esportslaw Blum. He actually can't make it. So instead we have Naturesbf from Wisdom Gaming. You might recognize Natures as a challenger player, either terrorizing you in solo queue, or a player that has since retired and now works as the tournament admin lead for all things North America TFT. So Natures, welcome to the show for the first time, I think. Is this your first time?
Yeah, first time on. Super excited to be here. I watch every single episode. Obviously talk to you, Dan, constantly. So happy to be here. Excited to talk to Connor and Subzero about Shurima Cup, because it was an interesting tournament.
It was an interesting tournament, especially for you. We'll maybe briefly touch upon some of these subjects, but let's get to also introduce our guests that are going to be featured for this episode. Now, reviewed, we try to take a look at who had good results, and you can't look too much farther than second place from Subzeroark. Welcome to the show, buddy.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. It's I've said it a million times. I did not expect myself to get that far. So really happy with my performance, and I don't know, see what I can do at mid-set as well.
Absolutely. So before we move on, Subzeroark, why don't you introduce yourself for the people who have seen you for the first time? There are a couple of your fans who are pretending not to know you in chat. They're saying like, who TF is Subzeroark? Obviously they know, but for people who actually don't know, why don't you just go ahead and introduce yourself to the community?
Yeah, so I'm prior to this mostly like a streamer, like content creator, one of those people who you watch their YouTube videos and they're like pretty good at TFT, but they're not like up there with the best. Every once in a while I would make a cup and like burn out in the first day or the second day or something like that. I've really only been like grinding TFT since 5.5. I played a little bit in like set 1 super casually back in the day. Used to be a league player. I did the league to TFT pipeline that a lot of people did. I was a jungle main in league, and I feel like I owe a lot of my my mental to being a jungle main. I feel like if you're a jungle main, you either like completely destroy your mental and become super toxic, or you become like super zen. Agreed. And you just say like, I can't affect anything around me. I'm just gonna play my best game. And so I came out the zen side, and I've been just doing TFT content for a while, and finally did well at this cup, really well. And been loving the set, and been streaming, making YouTube videos, doing all that stuff. It's been awesome.
Can I ask something there though?
Yeah.
So you say that you come out the zen side, but I watched your whole day 4, and like the thing is, I feel like you put on this like wholesome exterior, but I feel like internally, like you sometimes let like intrusive thoughts out, because you eliminate someone and constantly you're like, "Get fucked, kid!" Like you're just like, "Get the fuck out of my game!" Like it comes out constantly.
Okay. I'm not normally like that, but I feel like the tourney probably brings more of that side out of me. I honestly. Like, I'm not someone who even swears that much, but I feel like whenever I'm playing in tourney and like the I don't know, I'm like more nervous or something. I don't know, that happens. Emotions are running high in tournaments. Obviously, sure. All these people are people I respect a ton. So yeah, maybe there's a little bit of that, but it's like I feel like I just don't tilt that hard. Maybe I'm flaming people in game, but I feel like I've at least I'm able to keep the tilt to a minimum when I play in tourney. So
put it on then.
Awesome. My final question before we move on to our second guest is, who did you main as a jungler in League?
I was like a lot of tank junglers. My main for the longest time was Nunu. I played a lot of Zac. It was like Nunu, Zac, Ivern. When I played jungle a lot, and then I also played support. I was my highest mastery is on Soraka. So I played a lot of Soraka, and then I would go back and forth between like support Soraka and just like tank junglers.
Got it. How good were you at League? Were you like high ranked?
I peaked Master in League.
Okay,
So
not bad, not bad.
kind of, and not like a Challenger Fizz one trick or anything like that.
Well, I mean, at that point, he just pulled rank on you. But yeah, I like the jab. Really impressive. Apparently, like chat is saying, Natures, we have a handful of jungle mains who transition to TFT. It might be because of the way they try to play macro, or maybe how they want to micromanage things but can't, so they play TFT instead. In terms of where teams should be positioned and whatnot. So funny stuff indeed. Let's go ahead, go ahead, and meet our second guest. We got Connor, aka Connerisme. Now, there's a couple of Connors in TFT, so Connor, please introduce yourself. Welcome to the show. Who is Connor?
Yeah, I think the obvious answer to that is Connor is me. But I'm just a player that's been playing. I started playing a little bit, trying a little bit more when in 4.5. I started playing in set 1. I did actually kind of decent. I was like right off the bat. I climbed pretty high and was playing with a lot of players, but notable players. But then I got tilted and I kind of quit. I blame Keen and that 3-star Demon Elise that made you take 20 damage or whatever on stage 2, 3 because every Spiderling would deal damage to you.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, the summoner release.
I think I got tilted after that and quit the first time.
Yeah.
That's kind of fair.
Yeah. Then 4.5 rolled around. I had some friends that started playing. I was getting into like watching some streams. Pertinent story. I happened to watch somebody I had followed in set 1, who was actually Natures, and Natures was talking, and he was talking about players that really impressed him, and he was saying like a player that really impressed him was this guy named Ramblin at the time.
Yeah.
And so
wow.
I went over and started watching like Ramblin quite a bit. And before I had like watched a lot of people, and there's always things to learn and everything. I was like jam hard stuck. But like Ramblin was one of the people that like some of his insights, I just realized like, wow, I never would have thought of that. And it just kind of like opened my mind to like appreciate TFT's like level of like complexity as a game, and like inspired me to like actually put more effort into it and not make excuses that that it's just all luck and kind of rage quit. So yeah, and then I played the couple tourneys at 5. Set 6 I made a day 3. I was happy about that. And then set 7 I was able to make a final lobby. And I was pretty nervous, and I probably could have placed higher, maybe even won, if I didn't make quite a few mistakes. So I was a little disappointed in that, but that was a good accomplishment for me. And then more recently, I'm not great at having motivation and playing ladder. So I don't do too well in ladder. Not to say that if I had it, that would automatically qualify me to do super good. But as far as tournament is when I can really get myself to zero in and like focus on what is like proper value plays that will net me the most worth I can possibly get. So the last 3 tourneys I played in, I've started from day 1 and I've made day 4 every single time.
It's really impressive. So let's kind of get into that as like the main part of the show. So at the very beginning, we usually kind of do a couple announcements. The only thing there's only announcements that there's really to show is that we have Replay, who actually got signed by Team Liquid. That's a really cool thing. I just want to kind of recognize the few times that TFT players get recognition, and it's our world champion. So signed to Team Liquid, and his motivation's high as ever. Also, from this post, by the way, I found out that Replay used to work at IMC, a pretty well-established trading firm. They're market makers for people who kind of follow like stocks in the financial sector. So he left a quite lucrative career to what I consider to be one of the least lucrative careers out there as an adult male that you can do, which is try to become a pro TFT player. So making infinite money to literally making no money. Really ambitious move, but we wish Replay the best of luck. Congratulations. I'm sure getting signed by Team Liquid is a step in that right direction to make that dream come true.
One more thing that I think is important to shout out here is just shout out to Steve. Like this this guy is so supportive of the TFT scene. He has been since before TFT was like actually out as a game officially. He is the person that will be in like Kerm's or Robin when Rob was on, or GV8 when GV8 was here, like their Twitch chats. Like he is so supportive of TFT. It's awesome to see he's continuing that with the replay. Like huge shout out to Steve. He's awesome.
Yeah. 100%. Also, he's coming and I think competing in the open land in Vegas. So he's the team owner of Team Liquid, wants to throw down and see what he's made of. I think he's like high diamond master, so probably not going to do that well. But we'll see. We'll see how high he can climb. He's asking Bryce for coaching like all the time. So okay, so kind of back onto the topic. That was the only like big news piece that we had. We want to talk about Shurima Cup. So the experience, and this is kind of why I cut you off, Connor, because I don't want to get like too much into it, but let's just jump straight into, I guess, like the third day of competition. You mentioned that you are making day fours really consistently, but we got to highlight the people that didn't make it and kind of talk a little bit about some of the stories. The biggest one, I'll go first. I think everyone was really shocked by it. Dish Soap, for the first time in his pro TFT career since really getting into it in set 6, has not made it to day number 4, the final day of competition, which I believe, and Natures, you can be the one that fact checks me. I was saying this on the co-stream. I believe he might be the last person out of the established Power Rankings group to be in that club of always making it. Like up until Shurima Cup, I believe everybody else had experienced not making day 4 before, and Dish Soap was the final remaining one. Is that true?
So I don't know if, because I don't know the stat for every single player. I do know that this is like not even just counting cups. This is the first time Dish Soap's been eliminated in his first day of a tournament. Like obviously not day 1 of the tournament, but for his first day of the tournament in 17 months, which is an insane stat.
Wow.
He has advanced every tournament in the last 17 months. So like, I can tell you that, and that is ridiculous.
Okay, that's a really, really ridiculous stat. And I think it just goes to show you how impressive it is. And I think people are gravitating towards how shocking the result is. But in the end, it's still very, very good what he's able to accomplish. Okay, so let's go down the line then. Natures, who do you want to shout out on top of Dish Soap's storyline? That because I don't think we want to harp too much about it. Dish Soap's going to come back. He's going to put up good results moving forward.
Looking at this list, I mean, for me, it's DP. DP. So first of all, I saw he talked earlier today that he was VOD-reviewing his games and he actually cannot figure out what he was doing wrong, but he knows he was doing things wrong, and that's a situation that I feel like everyone that plays TFT has related to that situation, and it's the absolute worst. Like you know you're doing something wrong, and like unless someone points it out to you, you just won't find it. And I think what really sucks when I see that from DP is that I don't think he actually has been in that spot too much, because like I think this is pretty new ground for him. He's day 3'd the first day of the last 2 events, and last set was like the first set he really competed, and he was doing like incredible. It was insane. And so like I have to imagine like his mindset was like he really wanted to repeat on that and like capitalize and continue to build. Like he's talking about building his brand. He wants to keep doing that, and instead he's gonna miss out on mid set. Like he's having a rough start of the set, which is really sucks to see.
Okay, yeah. I mean, DP in general, like I think his morale's kind of down, and I think it's because he had such a great breakout performance in set 8. So a lot of people had high expectations going to set 9. He has a lot of high expectations on himself. We know what he's capable of. He just, is very openly saying like, man, I just suck. I'm watching my VODs. I don't think I could have done something better. I need someone better to tell me what I could have done better. So we'll see. I think he's going to bounce back. I have a lot of confidence in DP moving forward. Subzeroark, how about you? Any names in day 3 that's standing out to you?
Oh, I mean, I gotta shout out Joe Bookmark, because I think he's a fantastic player and maybe he just had a bad run of it. I know after the day he came into my chat and he said that one of his games was just completely unplayable whatsoever. So I didn't get to VOD review it, so I don't know what happened in that game, but maybe just a rough day for Joe. He also said that replay griefed him by standing on the new Shifting Sands portal, which is his least favorite portal in the game, and it got picked, and maybe that just mental boomed him and he couldn't go on after that. So sometimes these things happen in TFT, but I think he's a great player, and like he's someone who I would have definitely expected to make day 4. So I don't know. We'll see at the next cup for sure.
He's the guy that like taught you Caitlyn. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, he's the one who got me onto the Caitlyn tech because he popped into my chat a decent amount, and I was playing like Ornn or something. He was like, "You got to play Caitlyn," and I'm like, "Caitlyn seems awful, man. Aren't all of her augments bad?" And he's like, "No, Stars Are Born. Stars Are Born goes crazy." And I'm like, "Can you really play a legend for just Stars Are Born?" And I started playing it. He gave me sort of like the rundown on like the strong openers for it and that kind of stuff. I started playing it, started doing well with it. It's actually crazy. Like the week before the cup or something, he was sort of hesitating on Caitlyn a little bit. He had a stream where he was like, I'm cheating on Caitlyn. I'm going to try some new legends. And it made me hesitate a little bit. Okay. And I was like, oh, should I try something other than Caitlyn? But then like at the end of the stream, he's like, nah, I'm back. He's like, nah, Caitlyn's good. Caitlyn's good. And I played some more games on Caitlyn. It felt solid. And I was like, okay, I'm ride or die with Caitlyn. And, you know, we've been there ever since.
Connor, was there any player in day 3 that you were also surprised you want to shout out that, you know, you were really high on and you're kind of shocked to see him get eliminated this day?
Well, there's a handful of them that I, in a perfect world, I think would be on day 4. Yeah, Kerm is the obvious one to me.
Yeah.
He's just obviously a consistent tournament player. So, and his style and kind of Robin is what I've kind of looked to emulate a bit, as far as, you know, really doing those plays that are just going to have the strongest EV. So yeah, of course. Kerm.
Going from winner to, you know, getting eliminated in day 3, I think was shocking for us all. But at the same time, I think it just goes to show Nature's like the level of competition is just stepping up. You can't rest on your laurels. Anything could really happen, and you just have to be on point from the get-go, especially if you take like early bottom finishes. It just feels like the climb such an uphill battle.
Yeah, I think the field has gotten really, really, really good. I think Freljord Cup there was like a shocking moment to me. I looked over the top 64 of that event, and this event was similar in strength. And I think that's probably exactly what happened to Kerm, where you say resting on your laurels. He's someone that always cares about how much he performs at tournaments, but he's also super motivation based. And because he won the first cup, he knew he was in really good he was already making mid set. He's in a really good shape for regionals. This cup didn't really mean that much to him outside of like pride and money, which matters, but I think Kerm needs more to really like be the best, and that's probably agreed. I have to imagine what happened with him.
All right, well, now let's focus a little bit on the top 32 for day number 4. We'll see people like Kerm. We didn't mention like Rain and Pocket Gom, some other really good players. In the top 32 was pretty tightly contested, but specifically I want to give a shout out to the fantastic performances of Weijin, who cleared in terms of the points, landing 40, and then the study group of Prestivan, Setsuko, Soju, and Milk, and Kiyun all landing in the bonus points and really put quite a stamp onto making it into top 32. And that's a really big clapback, Natures, because of what happened the previous cup, where Dish Soap, DQA, Kerm, and I'm missing one person. Was it Broccoli was able to go top 4 in the tournament, and they absolutely wiped, and they got onto the mic and would just be like, yeah, our study group is better.
These players refuse to admit that this stuff matters to them. It matters to them so much. I was in a group chat with them in the 90 minutes after that day of play. You want to know how many messages they sent in that group chat? Those 5 players? Over 1,000. Over 1,000 messages in 90 minutes. They just went off. They were. I mean, some of it was like they were complaining about Piltover, whatever. But like, then after the 90 minutes, they did VOD reviews. Like they care so much, and they refuse to let anyone know that they do. They like, oh god, it's hilarious.
I feel like it's visible. They just say a different story, right? You see how much work ethic they're putting in. They're streaming insane hours. They're constantly VOD reviewing and practicing. But then they'll like go around and say like, tournament's all luck. No one cares about this cup. You know, this is SeaWorld. So Connor, when you hear that, how does that? Do you laugh, or do you take personal offense to it by any chance?
I just laugh. I mean, yeah, I mean it's classic kind of hyperbole and that goes on in TFT, and also like I to an extent I think it's somewhat justified. I mean, like I think a lot of the top players they do a lot of things like quite a bit better. So, I won't be offended until I'm really actually on their level and they're saying things like that. And then, so yeah, it's no problem.
Good attitude. How about you, Subzero?
Oh, I mean, I'm kind of down for people to like take it really lightly and like say that they don't care. I mean, I'm super down for them to like actually not care, because then it's like way easier to win, right? And they're just gonna run it down.
Sure,
Like,
yeah.
I feel like there are certainly some players who like are at the top level, but I mean, talking about like resting on their laurels, are just sort of like chilling and saying that they're good. And like, I mean, TFT is a game that's constantly evolving. People are constantly getting better, and like, new sets, mid set, all that kind of stuff. Like, you have to constantly be playing and practicing to stay at the top. And so like, these people who, meme and they're still at the top, I mean, it's because they're putting in the work. But if anyone wants to meme and say the game's all luck, then like, I'm down for you to get eliminated day 3 or something like that.
And that's apparently happening a little bit more frequently right now, because happened to Kerm, happened to Soap, could happen to anybody. Speaking of the top, here is the top 8 that we have. Setsuko won the tournament. Subzeroark able to get a decisive second with a strong performance in even that final game for a top 4. Casper and Precedent tie for 3rd, but Casper had better tiebreakers. And then Connor getting 5th, Weijin getting 6th, Replay getting 7th, and Chris getting top 8. So I usually have the exercise of somebody here complimenting someone else. So we can go with Connor first. Who in the top 8 do you want to give a shout out to that's not yourself?
Yeah. Well, there's 2 I would think of first, but Precedent's always been, a little bit underrated in the more recent tournaments. I feel like, when he was really getting going, he was receiving kind of a lot of criticism, and I felt it was kind of a little bit more justified. But then I remember even like towards the set 7, like watching him, and I was like, wow, this guy is actually really good now. And then of course the main one probably would be Casper. Because he's always been like a pretty good player, and he just hasn't been able to quite convert in a tournament to like a final lobby. So it's good to see him accomplish that.
2 things to follow up on that. 1, President is apparently the king of 4th. It's the most common result that he's had in his tournament record, actually. He gets 4th in this event. He got 4th in regionals last set. He got 4th in the Dragon Cup. Got top 4 in a couple of other fun events, right? Like Giant Slayer Series, Giant Slayer, the lap partner stuff. So President has to break this, like, I'm top 4. Can I do better than that? So that's a really interesting result once more for him. But man, he's very close to be able to even strike gold and win it all. And then for Casper, this is the best result that he's had by far. He's actually, according to the Liquipedia results I looked up, he didn't actually make a final lobby. He's always been very close to it. So for him to have a top 3 placement, finally living up to kind of the potential that I think we all knew that he had.
So the issue, I've always really struggled to rank Casper, because what has happened set after set is Casper comes out the gates the first like week of the set and is contesting rank 1 on ladder, finding out how to play the game alongside like the 5 names that you expect to be the top of ladder, and everyone hypes him up, and then he kind of disappears throughout. So seeing him, like, this isn't the first tournament of the set either, like seeing him perform this like later on, he's actually going to be at a major tournament, like super excited. I mean, because he has been once before, didn't go too well. So hoping that doesn't happen again. But I think I don't know. I'm really happy to see him have like one really solid tournament performance. Maybe that ups his confidence as well. So
yeah, we'll see. Okay, Subzeroark, your turn. Who do you want to give a shout out that's not yourself? And I promise you guys can talk about yourself after this.
I mean, you gotta shout out Setsuko. This man is just like a god of TFT. Like what are you gonna do? I felt like I was having a crazy day on day 4, and I was like, wow, I'm doing well. Oh, I got a first. Oh, I got another first. I'm checking the scores. Like, oh, maybe there's some world where I'm first. And just the whole day, it's like, no, the Setsuko guy, he just keeps getting insane performances. And then you go like watch his VODs, and he just like plays Earth, pops Tome at 2-1, and then just like rocks with it. Like what? Like I don't understand, man. This guy's just like a beast. So yeah, I don't know. Setsuko is someone where like you know, it's just like you play in a lobby with him and you just like feel that like pressure of such a strong player, just such a crazy player that he's always going to find some way to top 4 to top 2 and always is going to like play you know, to his outs and get the strongest possible performance. So I mean, you know, I mean, he won the tourney. He was up 3 points, but he didn't even need the bonus points. Like he could have gone first without bonus points whatsoever, which is crazy. So yeah.
Yes. It's the second win of the second cup in back-to-back sets. He won the Corrupted Cup in Monster Attack, and now he wins the Shurima Cup. Bryce put out a great thread. He asked me to edit a video for him. He sent me a bunch of YouTube clips. So I edited a little video, and Bryce did a great breakdown on the journey of Setsuko going from, you know, kind of the next big thing in TFT, because it was going to either be him, Nubal, or Bert. We just knew it was one of those 3 players. And a lot of people kept saying Setsuko was the best out of all of them. Never had that tournament results for 3.5 sets. Finally string together a great performance, and now the rest is history. Bryce covers it really well. And that's the way you can get some Bryce commentary if he's not going to be on the show. I want to talk about replay just a little bit, because he was a guy that I think people still are probably underrating as a player. I mean, we did mention him for being signed for Team Liquid, but I think people still just don't give him a lot of the respect, even though he's the reigning world champion. And I think Nature's, it had a lot to do with the fact that he got eliminated in the first weekend of the Fairleigh Cup.
So I think that's part of it, but I think if you watched Replay's stream after he won the world championship, so like he started playing double up with Juku, I think, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And all he did was talk. And if you actually watched him, it didn't make much sense how it looked like it felt like he was in shock. Like he wasn't actually that like. It didn't feel like he was like as excited as a world champion should be for winning the world championship. But one thing he did when he's talking about it, which if I was the winner, I would never have this on my mind in a million years. He started talking about what his like practice regimen was going to be going into next set, and how he's going to take it like even more seriously, even though now he's the world champion. He doesn't have to. I mean, it depends on who you ask. Like at that point, I actually I didn't rank him as player of the set. I ranked Setsuko, but I told Gangly elsewhere that like if I was to rank someone that I predicted to do the best this set, I actually would rank Replay because of that mentality. Obviously, it didn't work on Flared Cup. He had other things going on, moving something. I don't know. He had some reasonable reason of why he didn't perform very well. But I rated him pretty highly going into this event, and I expect he's going to do fantastic at mid set. I think his mindset for this is as perfect as you can have for a competitor.
Awesome. Okay, so we talked about some of the other storylines. Let's talk about the 2 guests that we have here. Part of the reason why I love these reviewed episodes is we get to meet them, but also the new faces. But these guys also went a step further. Subzeroark was one of the only people playing Caitlyn, and Connor was one of the only people playing Ezreal. And you guys were actually going counter meta, and Setsuko played Earth, which was counter to the Ornn. So it was fantastic to see 3 out of the top 5 players go counter meta. Subzeroark, you talked a little about Caitlyn, so let's just wrap up that arc there. You talked about how Joe inspired you to try Caitlyn. What is it about Caitlyn that gave you the edge, specifically, do you think, over the field? And if you were to go back and change anything, would you do anything differently?
Okay, I mean, the base idea behind Caitlyn is that Stars Are Born is kind of a broken augment, especially actually in this meta in some ways, or, you know, like last patch's meta with the dominance of like Samira and Swain. One of the reasons why Joe was talking about early on in the patch, actually, where he was kind of down on Caitlyn, is he was like, oh, well, you know, like you don't actually have a lot of clickable units, you know, like you're always going to lose out to the person playing Samira or Swain. But eventually we got to the point where it's just like, okay, I'm playing Caitlyn, and if my 1/4 shop has a Swain and a Samira in it, I can just lock that shop, hope that we have Stars Are Born as our first augments, and then boom, we have Samira 2, Swain 2, and the game is just on easy mode from there. Like, you just get a free win streak. The other thing that's crazy about Stars Are Born is that you get a free win streak and you get gold. You get 6 gold, so you can usually make 10, still be level 4, and have a strong board. So it just, like, it's oftentimes like actually just playing the game on easy mode. You can sometimes just 5 streak and be making gold, so you can go like fast 8. And also in last meta, when there are all these broken 5 costs, if you hit like an RE1, you can stabilize on it. That's kind of what made days 1 and 2 in the first weekend go so well for me. Is I could just go fast 8, find 1 RE, stabilize on that, and then just like win out the lobby basically once I cap my board high enough. So she's just a crazy legend. The awkward thing about Caitlyn is that all of her other augments basically suck. Joe tries to convince me that starter kit is a good augment, and you know, I feel like this guy just like picks noobs. Like it's not, man. You take this augment and then half the time you just lose the game on the spot. Like it is not. And then the other half the time where you actually get something good, you just go fourth on the spot because like you're playing down a prismatic late game. So I don't think I took starter kit a single. I did not take starter kit a single game across both weekends just because I don't think that augment is very good. Yeah. Natures.
So we actually saw you lock on broadcast. How frequently are you doing that? Because when I watched your VOD, I think I only saw it that one time on day 4. But how frequently would you say you're actually locking the stage 1 shop? Because like that, yeah, it's like a huge deal, but it's like you got punished there because it ended up being non-gold, but like you ended up still top 2ing. So
yeah, not a huge amount of time, maybe like 10% of the time. I mean, on that patch, it's when you see a Swain and like Samira, or you see like a Samira and like a Set or something like that. It's really when you see like a crazy combination. But the other thing you can do with Caitlyn, which Joe talked about, is the pre-level. So most of my games I would pre-level just so that you can be level 4 at 2-1 and have a higher chance of hitting like a good 2 cost to play around. And like you don't really need to stay level 3 that long because you're getting the free 1 cost 2-star anyway. So yeah, she's a fantastic legend. When the legend system came out at the start of the set, when they like revealed it, I was like, this seems kind of dumb. I feel like it's gonna like make people like force certain play styles. I'm not a fan of it, but like Caitlyn converted me. Just getting to play Stars Are Born like every single game there's a gold augment. It's just too fun. So I've been converted. I'm a legend lover because of Caitlyn. So yeah.
Got it. I love that. My question, I'm gonna hit you pretty hard here, is what do you say in response to when other top level players are saying Caitlyn's are for high rollers, for people who, you know, have shakier like foundational gameplay and need to rely on like this to streak? Like there's a lot of people that threw shade towards the Caitlyn, the people that played Caitlyn, and specifically the Caitlyn legend. Did you hear any of that? And what is your thoughts and response when you see that?
Oh, honestly, I don't think I heard too much of that. Maybe some high elo players were saying that in their own corners, but like I don't know. My chat is pretty wholesome, so like no one in my chat is like flaming me. Yeah, I mean, okay. Honestly, last patch wasn't Ornn more broken than Caitlyn. Like I was studying some VODs of these good players and watching them play Ornn. And isn't it like so egregious that you just like play Ornn and you take Portable Forge and then you get like a Trickster's Glass. You start the game with like a Samira 2 with Trickster's Glass and then you just win the game for free. Like I'm pretty sure if I had put as much time into Ornn as I had put into Caitlyn, like it might even be the stronger pick. But like part of the fact that like I was the only Caitlyn player in top 32 made it like, you know, it's nice when there's less Caitlyn players. So, and also just like I had so much time on Caitlyn, like, you know, I was not gonna like pivot legends at that point, and like I knew how to play it. But like, yeah, isn't it the other way around? Isn't like Ornn like carrying people because he was just like so broken last patch?
I love it. I wouldn't know. I don't even know what Trickster's Glass looks like on stage 2, let alone a Samira. But yeah, no, I love your energy on that, and I think you're right. Like people really underestimate the amount of time and effort that you put into it, because you're really maxing all that time out on Caitlyn. Okay, but we also have Ezreal as a legend. And Connor, I want you to talk about what inspired you to pick Ezreal, bring it to the tournament, and what specifically do you think gave you the edge over the field to be able to play that?
Well, I liked Ezreal, especially like in the Ezreal patch. You know, I like the feel of having you know, those extra items, especially a lot of the comps, you know, do really well when you can build a duo carry, and you also want to like put items in your tank. So Ezreal is pretty good for a lot of the same reasons Ornn is, and I had played Ornn in the Freljord Cup, and I played a lot of Ornn games, so I was pretty comfortable on Ornn. So funnily enough, my game plan actually going into Shurima Cup was that if my first 2 games didn't go too well on Ezreal, that I was going to switch over to Ornn, because I felt like Ornn had a little had more of the high roll potential. But for me personally, I felt like Ezreal had just a lot more of the even EV line, and so I felt more comfortable playing it.
All right. Do you feel like in hindsight you would have done it differently? Like you said, you were willing to switch to Ornn. Do you feel like if you switched to Ornn, maybe you could have gotten like top 4 or better in the tournament? Or are you happy with like jamming Ezreal all the way?
Yeah, I'm pretty happy. I mean, like I said, I thought it was the the better EV line. But if I like, for instance, if I knew that I was going to get Trickster's Glass or Sniper's Focus like most of the time, like yeah, absolutely, I wish I would have picked Ornn, like yeah, like in that case. But yeah, I'm happy with my legend choice.
You actually had like a pretty great string of final games as well. Like outside of that 1/8 place, if you were to mitigate that, that could have been a massive point swing there. So overall, well done. I'm gonna bring up the legends as well as the comps of the tournament. Unfortunately, I don't think we have day 4 data, so we're just using day 3, but you can kind of extrapolate beyond that. And you can just see the overwhelming majority of players picking Ornn 285 times alone on day 3, versus Earth being the second popular. You have to go down a few, and there you see it, the Caitlyn's and the Ezreals. Just to show you how infrequent there are 2 players playing that of each, Caitlyn and the Ezreal. So we know that Joe is playing Caitlyn. Who's the other Ezreal player, Connor? Do you know by any chance?
On the final day, is this the final day?
This was day 3. We don't have day 4 data.
Oh, I can't remember, but I think I did run into another Ezreal player that
on day 4.
On day 3. On day 3.
Oh, on day 3. Okay, yeah, there was one. Not a lot of Asol, a little bit of Yi and Lee, and one Vlad player. The Lee Sin player went 8th, which is pretty funny. We can talk about comps as well. We don't have to talk too much about it because it is technically an old meta. But I actually like going to Natures for this, because Natures dives really deep into like stats and the numbers and anything. Was there any like big macro trend or storyline within stuff like the stats that caught your eye?
This tournament was so I kind of hinted at it earlier. This tournament was really skewed because of Piltover. Milk's tweet wasn't like, if anyone saw Milk's tweet was like 6 or 7 of his games where Piltover 2-1 won the lobby, and then one of them they went first, second. I think it was 7 games, 8 Piltover players. And so the tournament ended up being really skewed because of that. And when you look at the data, everything kind of wasn't doing well.
Except for Piltover. It was like a black hole. It was absorbing all the wins, so everything was like 4.6 or worse.
Yeah, right? that was this data was really hard. Like you had to really like consider the fact that like win rates were just not real in this event. Like they just weren't. It was literally a question of how many times did it go against non-Piltover. So it was really hard to look at this data and take much from it, compared to most events, I would say. Even like Zeri, with like when you like didn't consider Zeri boards, they're able to go like 9 and have a ton of legendaries. Like it wasn't actually doing that great. It was played nonstop, but like it wasn't doing great. But that's again until you had Piltover. When you had Piltover, it's doing fantastic. So I don't know. The tournament was super weird because of that. It was kind of what I was mentioning earlier.
Yeah, totally. So Subzeroark, you're playing like a lot of Sorks. Was that because it was counter meta, or do you legitimately believe Sorks were like that good?
Oh yeah, I'm a Sorks enjoyer. Sorks worked really well for me days 1 and 2. Like I was just steamrolling people, and then day 3, day 3 was actually like really rough for me. Like back on the other page, you could see I made it with 28 points only. If I was 2 points lower, I wouldn't have made it. And 1 point lower, I would have made it on tie breaks, but it would have been really close. And I was still playing a lot of Sorks on day 3, and it was just really not going well for me. Like I would just play the Sorks opener, and I was like losing fights that I thought I'd normally win. And I feel like it was maybe just the much higher tempo, like stronger players in day 3 compared to day 1 and 2. Like it felt like night and day to me. I felt like days 1 and 2, I was just cruising with Sorks, and then like day 3, I would play Sorks, and like it was not going well. I'm pretty sure all my Sorks games day 3 were bot 4, and then the 2 games I didn't play Sorks were firsts. Or maybe I'd 1/4 aside from that. But yeah, I like my games that weren't Sorks were maybe all top 4s or something like that. So yeah, Sorks kind of fell off for me, and then they came back a little bit final day at like a good spot. The idea behind Sorks just in Caitlyn is that like Caitlyn is more item starved than something like an Ornn or an Ezreal. Like you don't get those free Ornn items, those free components, and so like Azir, Lux, Kai'Sa, Yasuo, those really like a ton of items. Where Sorks, you need 2 items for your Lux, and then like tank items and maybe some extra damage items. So like you can play really well with very few items. So that's that's kind of like the idea behind Sorks and why I guess I felt like it was so strong with Caitlyn. But yeah, day 3 was kind of scary for Sorks, but then they came back later, so it's all good. We love Sorks.
I mean, Sorks seemed to be doing well. Lux got a pretty big quality of life buff, so we might see it more this patch. Connor, what were you playing? I saw you play a lot of challengers, which makes sense because you're itemizing multiple carries. What else were you really like having a lot of success with?
Yeah, I think some of my wins definitely came from Zeri, or the 6 on was one of my other wins. I definitely that is a thing you were saying, like challengers, and makes sense with Ezreal. It's really nice on Ezreal. Even I don't even know, I can't even remember if I played an Invoker game. I think I might have played one week 1, but yeah, I felt like with Ezreal too, the components, they definitely open up a few more extra comps, being able to itemize more carries and stuff, including like the Lux Azir, which, you know, obviously not the greatest comp, but it definitely, you kind of need more items, and so I was able to play that, I think, at least once, and to a decent degree, because I was in a good spot.
All right, and what you're drawing we're drawing a common denominator here, which is these guys are playing underplayed legends, underplayed comps, underplayed trees, and finding success. So I hope this inspires some people who always just say like, oh well, it's just gotta be Ornn, it has to be Ornn. I had a conversation with Kurum. He was just like, it's just always Ornn, man. And I'm like, I don't think it's always Ornn. Like, there's definitely, like, if it's always Ornn, then you're just basically like admitting that you think TFT sucks. Like, it's just not a good strategy game. If there's just one dominant strategy that you have to pick, otherwise you won't have results, and it's just not true. It's just not true. But I understand like why he thought that way. I couldn't bring myself to agree, personally.
Ornn wasn't even a 4.50.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. Yes. So many people playing Ornn that literally is like, it just regressed to the mean. The average its average placement is literally like right down the middle. Its win percentage is basically right down the middle, right? It's just exactly average. So congrats, you're just playing you're playing the average result, which I think some players who are higher skill believe that they can get the edge that way. But we have some players like Subzeroark, like Connor, like Sexuko, that found edge otherwise. And speaking of, one thing as a tradition is we go to all the top 8 players that weren't featured in the show and get quotes on their tournament performances. So I have the first one here from Setsuko. Setsuko said, IMO, the patch had a low skill ceiling, but I played near that ceiling, which was mainly about going 3rd and 4th from mid-roll spots, which I think is a mark of Subzeroark's play too. I think the high rolls on this patch were super easy to pilot, and everyone in the field could do it. I'm not sure if I entirely agree, but I understand his perspective on it. Subzeroark, I think you were also playing a lot of like going top 3, top 4 from preserving a lot of HP and whatnot. What's your response to this?
Yeah, I mean that's TFT for you, right? You can't go, especially you know, there's the Milk tweet about Piltover. Oh, you know, someone's gonna win every lobby just being Piltover. And then I was so shocked. Kana, community member, a lot of people know, tweets at Milk and says, oh, so did you go 2nd in those lobbies? And like he's like going 8th in those lobbies or something like that. So, you know, like that's a lot of TFT. You can't win every lobby. You don't. Someone is going to high roll, and like, you know, they'll be able to win the lobby, and you know, you just have to play for the best performance possible. And it's not guaranteed. I know so many people saying, oh, you know, I hit Piltover, you know, they hit Piltover, they just win the game. I still, till the day I die, will remember that I was playing in a lobby and tournament. Robin Songs gets early Piltover, has like a okay cash out, and ends up just going 8th in the lobby. Like the best players can still go 8th, and you know, if you're not one of the best players, you can definitely go 8th. So it is it's not free. It's not free. It's very good, but it's not completely free. You still need to have some amount of skill to pilot these, and maybe a little bit of luck. Not to say Robin's unskilled. He's a beast, but yeah.
That had to have been one of the worst cash outs I've ever seen in my life.
It was a pretty bad cash out for sure. I do feel the need to very briefly bring up what ended up happening, and we do have Natures who was actually overseeing the situation. Some people didn't actually see your Reddit comment. Can you very quickly break down like what happened to Robin in this tournament? Because there was a little bit of that ruling discrepancy with the pause.
So yeah, I'll go over it very quickly. There was a bug where Zon mods were being duplicated. He could not put it on his, either he couldn't put it on his Zeri no matter what, or it was always on his Zeri. One of those two things was true. The game was paused to tell Robin not to be using it on both units. At that point, the game was unpaused. I made an error here, and I had to start the game with a 30-second warning to players instead of doing a full ready check. That will be resolved in the future. There is a full post from me on the thread on the competitive TFT subreddit going over this, and going over what happened there. But it is something that will not happen in the future, and it is entirely on me for that error. But that's apart from Robin. That's more a couple other players in that game.
Yep. So Natures owns up, claims responsibility. So thank you for doing that. And also, like, we're just gonna fix it, guys, next time. Like, obviously, it was like a momentary blunder, but it's an understandable one because we got to keep the tournament moving, guys. And these kinds of things are logistically very interconnected, right? It's similar to TFT balance. It's not like one individual thing that gets changed is isolated. Like if you pause and hold up the lobby, it delays so many other things of production elements of it. So I'm sorry that you got a lot of grief, Natures, but also you'll fix it moving forward. And we hope that Robin and Soju and anyone else who's affected by it will be able to also look past it, which I think they will. Yep. Speaking of looking past, let's go ahead and go into the next quote we got, which is Replay. Replay said that he had a disappointing fourth day with a ton of mistakes. For example, his belt Darius incident where he accidentally put the belt on Darius, not closing 3 of his game, and he also threw a specific high roll game. Will come back and actually perform at mid-set GG's, which is kind of scary because if he gets like a really solid top 8 and he felt like he played this bad and is disappointed, I'm excited to see what he's got coming into mid-set for sure.
I haven't seen something like that from like Replay has been critical of his play, particularly in early last set, but that was early set 8, but that was like largely after becoming better and realizing he was doing poor before. I haven't seen very many times where Replay has a good performance at a tournament and comes away from it being like, I did terrible. I'm like really
disappointed.
Yeah,
exactly.
So that's pretty surprising for me to see. But if that means he has more upward mobility, I'm down. So
all right. Next quote we got from Weijin. Weijin said, I wasn't feeling that confident going into Shurima Cup because of ladder performance and throwing in a few scrim games, which I thought he was doing intentionally, but I guess apparently he was trying hard and he just threw. But I was happy with how I played in the event. My performance was very consistent, and I played some unconventional lines I don't think others would have seen. Connor, did you see any of those lines that Weijin was playing?
Yeah, I think he was. He talked about on broadcast from day 3 he was playing like the Callista Bastion, and I believe I ran into him when he was playing it on day 4 as well. It seemed a little bit mid to me at the time, but yeah, he's obviously a very incredible player that can really make a lot of that stuff work. So
I love that. We have a quote from Pressevent who got 4th. He said, if I had to give myself a rating out of 10 on how I performed during the cup, I'd give myself a 5.8 out of 10, which I don't know why he went that specific, but he's saying that if 9 would be that I won the tournament and 10 would mean that I made near 0 mistakes. I didn't have any of the Samira 2 openers on day 4 that just gave me the free top 3 from 2-1, but I was definitely given enough high roll in other ways where if I was better, I'd be able to win with the spots that I had. Overall, I think I played okay, with some games being well played and probably taking advantage of my high rolls, and some games just not so well played all around. And I feel like this is a consistent theme of all the players who made it to the final lobby. They just want a little bit more. And we have another quote from the final member of the top 8 from Chris. Chris had actually a pretty long message, right? They cut off part of it. But he said, I think I definitely could have performed better. The point system really punishes you if you have one bad game. So going into the final lobby, knowing that top 4 is already secured, kind of made it less hype. They should do like double points for the final lobby or something, or maybe I just shouldn't run it down, LOL. Overall, I kind of surprised myself making it this far again. Last time I prepped this hard for a tournament, I placed top 7 in Dragon Cup. So I definitely think I can compete at a high level if I put the work in. I've been liking this set a lot. So if it gets better for 9.5, I can see myself competing in more of these tournaments. And I think it's really cool that we have players with pro gaming background in League of Legends and other games, right, come and have success. I think it's always a really cool narrative, Natures. So yeah, I think this is a really cool story developing that Chris made another final lobby.
He's played in like sporadic tournaments. He's played sporadically over the last 4 or 5 sets. He's played TFT for a lot longer than that. He's played TFT the whole time. So it's really, really sweet to see like, as you said, someone from the league scene coming, like, that was a professional league player, is going to be playing in like one of our biggest events in NA in a week. That's really, really cool. I think if there's someone that hasn't been talked about enough for their performance at this cup, it's probably Chris. I think Chris is
major
ignored
underdog.
way too much because like the guy actually puts in a lot of time on TFT. Like he puts in he must love the game. He puts in a lot of time. So I'm super, super excited to see him next week. It's definitely someone that I'm going to be rooting for myself.
Yeah, it's Chris and Subzeroark's brother from another mother, Saint Vicious. It's the bald men rising in TFT. Those guys, that little cohort, definitely underrated in terms of players. We also have a couple quotes from some of the other underrated players. We have 2 of them who didn't make the top 8. One, I got a quote from Bryce. He said, "I think I played worse than I'm capable of, but not terribly. I was on the lower end of variance, but I imagine a top 5 player could have found a way to make it work and potentially sneak into day 2. He means day 4. I think I was good enough at the patch to actually compete, and I still feel that way. It just wasn't my day. And that's TFT. The more space I get from it, the more my disappointment fades, and I can appreciate the opportunity. Competing as North America's best is really fun, and hopefully I get a chance to do it again once I'm back from my paternity leave, which, by the way, is very soon. I got word that Bryce will no longer be joining me on the coaching for mid-set because his wife will be delivering babies. So we wish Bryce the best of luck and a very healthy family as they are about to expand by 2, because Bryce is about to have twins, which is really funny if you know Bryce, because Bryce is also an identical twin. So what are the odds of that? That's kind of crazy. The last quotes we have is one from Dish Soap, and this one, I managed to get a quote from Dish Soap about his performance. Here we go. Quote, "Oh, whatever. All these fuckers need this tournament for their precious little qualifier points. Oh, I need this little qualifier points or I'm not going to make it to mid-sets or regionals. Ooh. But me, I'm a fucking beast, man. I qualify through ladder. The most high-skilled, high sample size, most skill testing environment. I'm going to regionals through ladder. Fuck the tournament. I'm out. Peace." Subzeroark, what do you think? What do you have to say about that?
I mean, Dish Soap's obviously a beast. I think Dish Soap at full power is a scary thing to witness. So I'm happy. I'm down. If he wanted to just like run down this tourney and make it easier for everyone else, I'm completely down for that. And it'll be scary to see what he does in future tournaments. So
I don't think he's gonna run on mid-set.
Yeah.
In fact, I heard Dish Soap say that of all like the study group players, he thinks he's the most motivated. So
sure, I bet he is. All right. So we had our fun. Those were some of the quotes. And for people who probably need just because they're not in on the joke, this is exactly what Dish Soap said as the last game of day 3 was being played, and he realized that he had been eliminated from the tournament. He actually ended his stream right after he said this quote. So yeah, it's a fun little reference to that. Speaking of references, we like to bring up our top 15 and see, and this is for like myself and Nature's mainly, how well we did actually. And this is actually one of our best performances so far. We evaluate based off the top 16 of who actually made it to the top 16 out of the 15 players that we rank. And turns out we hit 10 of them. The only ones we missed were Broccoli, who got 32nd, Disso, who got 48th, Darth Noob, who got 42nd, DPay got 52nd, and Kurum, who went 55th. But that's overall one of our best hits, Natures, which I think, it's a pat on the back for us. We usually don't do that well.
Yeah, I think I might have gotten carried here. I don't think I did too hot though. So I did well before the last 2 events, but I don't know about this one.
All right. Well, we also have our best ballot, aka the person that submitted the most accurate rankings. And Nature's already basically said that he doesn't think he did it. It was Robin Songs, who actually nailed 11 out of the top 15, because he even believes in players like Dace, for example, and didn't actually get to see how well some of these players were able to perform. So rather, he was able to see how well some players were able to perform. So really well done to Robin. And overall, I guess this brings us to the next segment, which is to talk about Subzeroark and they submitted their own top 15, which I think is going to be real spicy. What I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up the list one by one. So Connor, we start off with your first half. You said Dishsoap at 1, Asuko at 2, Goobums at 3, Robin at 4, Milk at 5, Prestivan at 6, and Kurum at 7. So a lot of the established guard. Then 8 is Weijin, 9 is Soju, 10 you put Casper. So this is where you start introducing some of the interesting mixes. Kiyun at 11, Replay, Darth Noob at 13, Malala, and Broccoli at 15. So why don't you talk a little bit about the list? Like maybe the first prompt would be, where do you feel is the first gap between the top players and the players slightly below that?
Maybe after Goobums. I do think he's actually close enough up there right now with Setsuko and Dishsoap.
Interesting. Why do you think he doesn't get that hype? It's always Setsuko, Dishsoap +1, maybe Weijin, maybe Robin if he's in really good form, Milk, but not Goobums. Why is that?
It's just one of those people, it's more of an eye test thing. I watch, and the amount of times that they do things that kind of work out for them that I just, I wouldn't have thought that way, and they think in a very different way, and they really make it work. It shows me a certain level of potential, a certain level of skill ceiling, and I think that Goobums executes on that as well, and to the degree that he is very consistent within that kind of higher potential, higher ceiling as well. So yeah, I think he deserves to be there.
Is he one of the players that you study more than others? Obviously there's gonna be some people on this list that you study, you will VOD review their VODs in particular, go learn from. Is he one of those?
Yes and no. Probably not as much. He's one of those players. It's it's almost a little bit like Socks, but not quite as much as Socks, where it's you can learn really interesting things that in the weird little deviations they do, but a lot of those are harder to replicate into your own style kind of a thing.
Your play style, sure.
Yeah. So he's not the person that I'm going to look towards to emulate as much. But
who is?
I always it's probably going to be Robin, Dishsoap, Kurum, kind of those.
Okay. Interesting. And you have them in the next gap. You actually have Preston really high as well. Now I'm going to ask you to insert another gap. Where's the next gap in your list here?
You
can also say
maybe
15,
after Kurum, but I feel those are really consistent. Maybe I don't know. It's hard. I kind of want to keep dropping it. Maybe after Soju, for really consistent tournament performers, especially this set.
Okay, great. And Soju actually has been really consistent. He made actually something that I want to touch on for the top 16 players is Soju made another top 16, but made it to the top 10, and that's back-to-back tournaments. Is it safe to say, Nature, that Soju's actually doing really well so far? Yeah, he hasn't topped the final lobby, but making it far every single event so far has been really commendable.
Yeah, if Soju isn't actually someone who usually performs in cups. That's not his strong. The strong suit is cramming really, really hard for 10 days before regionals and then being good at regionals. That's Soju's strong suit. Cups are not actually typically that. You get the day 4 occasionally, but you're not seeing him in final lobbies very often at all in cups. I have to imagine missing regionals last set is the reason for this. That's pretty unacceptable by his standards to miss regionals. So I have to imagine he's realizing he actually has to try.
Agreed. I love that you have Casper. I think he's perennially underrated. You actually have a lot of underrated players from 10 to 15 in general. Malala had a good result again, right next to Goobums. Really solid performances from the top 16. Do you feel this band of players is also kind of really similar, or do you feel there's a specific standout or two?
Yeah, I think they're pretty similar. The kind of Darth Mood, Malala, Broccoli. They're players that are just really smart. They can play creative lines and execute pretty well.
Okay. What do you think is, if I can ask and put you on the spot, and this could actually be open to either Natures or Sub-Zero as well, What do you think Darth Noob is missing? Is it just luck? Because I feel like he's been kind of getting a lot of recognition lately, but he's still kind of like struggling to advance in tournaments. He's actually historically not really advanced from a lot of the days that he's played in. If you actually look at his tournament record. So, Connor, you can go first here. What do you think is just bad variance for Darth Noob?
I haven't watched enough to like say for certain, but if I like had to guess, just seeing him play on ladder when he rarely does play, and I even talked to him for quite a while at Summit when I went there for the guest pass. He just really strikes me as a really smart, thoughtful player. So I would imagine it would be variance. He could be succumbing to nerves like a lot of people in tournaments, but that would be my guess.
So, for what it's worth, Darth was one of the people I talked to before the tournament, before doing power rankings. Like, I don't talk to that many players before power rankings, but sometimes, like, if I'm really unsure, because like Darth Noob was like his rank on ladder was an anomaly. He's not someone that usually is like the actual top of ladder. So I had someone where I felt like I had to get a gut check, and his response to me was just saying he thinks his meta read is different than everyone else, but he thinks it's correct. And he could be wrong, but so I don't know. I didn't watch this game, so I don't know what ended up happening there. But it's totally possible that he just was not correct there.
Yeah.
And so.
Yeah, he's a scary ladder player, and I think we're just waiting to see if he can convert some of those results. And I think he's just like a lot of people would cheer for him to do well because of all the community work he does. And so it's kind of like when Nature's or Bryce enters the tournament, like because of their prominence in other parts of the community, a lot of people hope for their success. All right, last question, Connor, and then we'll move to Subzeroark's list. Where are you? Let's just say you put a number next to your name. And you can say like right now your peak form or your average form. What is the number next to Connor's me? How far do we have to go down before we hit your number?
That's kind of difficult. I like on different days. One of my bigger problems was just making very like preposterous mistakes. Like so. I think a lot of them were nervous that the final day I actually had a bad headache, and so like by the end it was just hard for me to think. So there was that going on there. I used to say that I thought I was like a day 3 player, but I'm feeling a little bit more high on myself since I've done good in the last. So I probably put myself in the top 32, like a day 4 player since I made the last day 3. So maybe 20, maybe like 30.
Come on, speak with your chest, man. I like the 20. Give
me
right,
20. 25.
Hell yeah, 25. LeBron, Jordan 23, Kobe 24, Connor 25. You heard me.
I have a stat for Connor. Okay. So, Connor, you're number 6 in qualifier points, right? Mm-hmm. And you didn't auto qualify to either cup.
Yeah.
In all of our sets, which is that I've had this structure, 6, 7, 8, 9. 6 had a slightly different form, but the structure was the same. There is, going into mid-set, there's only 2 players, one being you, that has been top 10 in qualifier points and hasn't auto-qualified the other one. Do you know who the other player is? Any guesses?
Solus?
No.
Solus?
It is the world champion.
Replay.
So the only other person that has done what you have done is the world champion. So I'm down for you to bump that number up a little bit.
Yeah.
Come
on.
All right.
Just a tiny bit. But hey, 25 is really humble, I think, by your standards. Let's see where it's at by the end of the set because you're on a good track. All right, we have 2 guests. We have a second list. Let's head over to Subzeroark's top 15 North America. We'll start off with the first half. So at number 1, Dish Soap. At number 2, Setsuko. At number 3, Goobums. You two, Connor and Subzeroark, are aligned on your top 3. 4, we have Milk. 5, we have Prestevant. 6, Casper, so he's very high, and 7, Replay. And then at 8, we have Wasian. 9, we have Robin. 10, we put Degree. 11, we have Appies, which is pretty interesting. I feel like I wasn't expecting that. 12, DQA. 13, Mismatched Socks. 14, Kurum. And 15th, we have Soji, aka K3 Soju. All right, so Subzeroark, we're gonna do the same exercises as well, which is like, where do you perceive to be the first gap in the top rankings?
I would say it's even just after Setsuko, like Dish Sub Setsuko, I think are in a realm of their own. I mean, Goobum's a fantastic player, and to be fair, I haven't VOD reviewed Infinite of Goobums. I feel like I've watched a lot more of Dish and Setsuko, but I mean, you just look at their ladder performance over multiple sets, their tournament performance recently. Like, I feel like they're in a league of their own, and maybe if Goobums has a crazy tournament performance soon, I can bump him up into that tier in my head, but right now it's just Dish Soap and Setsuko clearing everybody.
That's awesome. Okay, great. So then where's the next one then? I think that's just really interesting. Where was the next gap of separation?
Probably after Robin at 9.
Okay. So Goobums, Milk, Pressman, Casper, Replay, Wasion, and Robin in this next gap.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would say these are all people that, I mean, I just really respect their approach to the game. They all, I think, put a ton of work into it. It's a lot of people who are also like very high up there on ladder or doing very well in tourneys consistently. So yeah, they're just a lot of relatively consistent players. I mean, like Casper is someone that people, I don't know, maybe don't put that high on rankings, but I mean, he crushed this tournament. He's crushing it on ladder. He almost, like, he just barely didn't make it to, I think, day 4 of Freljord. Like, I think he's a very, very solid player as well, or at least he's having like an amazing set. So yeah, I think he's someone who's maybe even like a little underrated.
All right. And then 10 through 15, we get real spicy. Degree in 10th might be the highest I've ever seen him ranked, period. Let alone in terms of like a top 15 North America. So can you start there? What is it about Degree that stood out to you?
I mean, it's really just a combination of like he's killing it on ladder right now. He's rank 7 on ladder right now. So I've been seeing this guy just beasting on ladder, doing very solid in tournaments. Just another player that I think maybe just hasn't. I don't know what his like history as a competitor, and but maybe he's not had enough like consistent performances for people to rate him high. But like I think if you saw another player with, say, like Goobums, if you put Goobums in the same spot on ladder as him, or like gave him his same performances, or Robin or something like that, I think they'd say, oh, obviously he's a very, very solid player, but maybe Degree is just someone who's not like a household name, so doesn't get as much respect as other people.
I'm with you. I rated Degree super highly going into set 7 regionals. He went like 23rd or something. But when I VOD reviewed his Dragon Cup games, I loved Degree. I loved the playoffs things. I'm with you. I'm totally with you.
Very underrated. And then you have another underrated player right behind him in Appies. Do you talk to Appies by any chance?
I like watch his stream and desubmit. I don't like chat with him that much, but I mean, Appies is someone who's like Appies' peak is like, God of TFT, nearly God of TFT level. Like, he does crazy stuff that like you look at and you're like, what is this guy even doing? And then he makes it work. He just like, I think he's one of those players that really enjoys TFT, really enjoys like playing TFT as Mort Dog intended, doing really, really creative stuff, playing interesting comps, and just throwing a lot of stuff together, putting together what you hit, and playing a really strong comp. So yeah, he's someone who I respect a ton. And like in previous sets, maybe like his motivation hasn't been there, or maybe there have been like some other factors. But I know like he tweeted recently that he has a bunch of motivation. I was watching him today, and on the new patch, he like climbed Infinite. So I think he's someone that maybe we'll see a really, really strong performance of. I think he's someone who absolutely has it in him. It just has to be like, is the motivation there? Is the patch clicking with him? And I think those two conditions are met here. So I think he can be a beast.
Nice.
Okay.
I hope you're right.
So I gotta ask, what Soju at 15 feels a little low, but at least he made the list.
I mean, I think maybe he's a bit lower than maybe his potential is, because I was looking at his recent performance on ladder and his most recent stream, and like he's having a rough run of it. I sort of put these in my head as like this patch for like mid-set tourney, and yeah, maybe it's just not clicking for Soju yet. So that's why he's so low. Of course, he has the potential to be way higher, but right now, yeah.
Got it. Okay, so just for reference, your top 15 list is because these are like current state, like if they were to play a tournament right now.
Yeah, this is me thinking like this patch going into mid-set. This is another reason why I put like Milk so high, though I know a lot of people respect Milk. I feel like, I mean, especially just looking at him just like completely smurf, hard forcing the stupid Garen comp. Like, I feel like that is a Milk comp like to a T. It's you you play this comp every single game. It's giga broken if you hit all the requirements, and you hit all the requirements and you go top 2. And like somehow, you think that that's like completely unskilled and like there's no room for skill expression, but like he just does it and gets way better performance than other people who are like forcing comps like that for some reason. So like there's some area there where like Milk just knows how to like optimize a really strong comp. And so like that's why I have him really high, just because I think like this is actually like, as long as the Garen stuff stays in the game, or like maybe he finds something else, as long as there's not like a hot fix nerf to it or something, like I think he's really well positioned. This is like a Milk meta in my head.
All right. We'll see. Thanks for your top 15s, both of you. Actually, I didn't ask, Connor. Was your top 15 similar? Was it like evaluating current form or like their peak performance?
Yeah, I think the foundational layer was kind of like the tournament history, and then like I just kind of interjected, where I felt like there needed to be a more significant change, and just because of my like more personal like views on their like performance that I've seen.
Right. Okay. Got it.
Okay. Also, one more thing is I realized a mistake that I made, because I knew I was going to make one mistake, because I probably would have put a DQA on here, probably somewhere in that 10 to 12 range. I kind of forgot that.
He's beginning to learn, Natures. We do this exercise. For one, it's an interesting opinion, but two, you guys can recognize that it's kind of hard to make a top 15 list, because you're always leaving off like 1, maybe 4 names. Sometimes you're like, oh, that can't be right. There's no way I should be leaving this guy off. But you have to make cuts somewhere. But that's what makes it really interesting, and why I think North America is really fun to watch. We're not going to expand top 15 anytime soon. Maybe if the scene completely explodes or something like that, we can make it top 20, but 15 seems to be the right number for now, at least.
I like 15. It's hard now. It's
so hard,
but I love it.
When we first started, it was hard to fill top 15 without feeling like we're just bullshitting you guys. Like, yeah, like this guy's probably top 15 material. We like threw like the most random votes out at the beginning, and that was 2 years ago. So look how far we've come since then. We're going to go move on to our last major segment of the show, which is Agree, which is we throw out some hot takes or room temperature takes, and we ask the chat as well as the panel whether or not they agree. We'll start off with a pretty interesting light one, given the light in the light of the discussion of what Bryce has actually put out, which is Setsuko's second win means that he should be ranked number 1 going into the mid-set finale. There's a lot of heated rivalry between... Actually, it's not that heated. There's a lot of rivalry between Setsuko and DTIYDK in particular in terms of trading 1-2. It seems like in recent times, DTIYDK has ran away with the number 1, but with Setsuko putting on another good tournament performance yet again, should he be ranked number 1 going to mid-set? Let's start off with Natures here.
Yeah, I agree with this pretty hard, especially if what you're qualifying here, which I think most people probably will, is their chance to win the event, because that's really what matters. It goes to Worlds. I think Setsuko, it's not just that like he won 2 events. He is very, very frequently near the very top of standings on other days that aren't like winning the event. So I like DTIYDK absolutely could do it as well, like for what it's worth. But I think that DTIYDK's consistency at this point is like ignoring it is pretty insane. Like he doesn't have a bad tournament. It's at the point where whether he is on ladders irrelevant. His ladders are completely irrelevant. He streams for fun at this point. I don't know.
Okay.
So,
all right, Subzeroark.
I mean, you saw in my list. I would still say DTIYDK for sure. I feel like DTIYDK's consistency is just insane, and I mean, you watch the guy play, and it's just like he looks like, I have this in my head. This somewhere up there is the gods of TFT, and he looks like a god of TFT. He's constantly just like finding the right line to play, constantly optimizing his performance. I mean, he boomed out of this tournament, but like he said, it didn't really matter for him. So I can easily see that, like he maybe didn't take this tournament super seriously and had a bad performance and said, whatever, like all that matters is mid-set. And I'm sure he's going to come to mid-set at full power and absolutely do insane. So yeah, I just think DTIYDK's consistency is insane. I mean, I would have even, like Setsuko went to Worlds last year. I would have liked to see, DTIYDK at Worlds as well, because like, I feel like part of Setsuko's legacy is, he did so well at Worlds. I feel like if we had seen DTIYDK at Worlds, he could have done very similar to Setsuko, if not better, who knows. So yeah, it's still in my head. Dish Soap is definitely number one, but they are in a tier of their own. They're very close. They're, you know, the Goku and Vegeta fighting it out constantly, trying to see who's going to come out on top. So I mean, it's awesome to watch.
I like that. I use the analogy of Magic versus Larry Bird in the NBA. I just like it's very. I don't know if we'll be able to have a situation like this moving forward. Maybe we'll have one dominant player, but it's rare to see two Titans go at it. Okay, Connor, what do you think?
I'm gonna disagree, especially around the part where it says like he should be. Like generally, I think like the better, more reasonable like assertion after kind of looking at the general data, Setsuko would be number one. But for me personally, I'm just going to weigh the eye test a little bit more. And having watched a lot of both those players, I just feel, even though Dish Soap had a low variance day, I would still place him higher.
Okay, well, chat agrees. 75-25 split. It could be that we have Setsuko viewers, who knows? But I think a lot of people are hyped for him, and if anything, he's a proven tournament winner. And I think that's exciting and definitely something that's really intimidating also to go up against. So we shall see. Another agree coming up here. This one is from Mort Dog. I actually asked him to submit an agree for this show, and so this is the one that he came up with. According to Mort Dog, level up on 2-1 is now a bad augment with the nerfs to 5 costs. So this is I asked Mort Dog for any take currently on TFT, and he said this one specifically. So let's start off with Connor.
It's a lot worse. It's certainly a lot worse. I still think, like, you know, you fully upgraded you know, the level 9 board, and it's still going to be like pretty much the strongest comp in the game outside of, you know, other absurdities. So it's really hard to make that happen now, because you don't stabilize around of course the one cost as well. You like really have to like cap out before you get there. But there's always going to be like those econ spots, especially if like an ASOL player is playing at, like, you know, Scuttle Puddle and everything, where you can actually get to those upgrades. And so if you find yourself in a spot for that, I think it can be a lot better. Especially you get like a gold opener. You might be able to make it work with a good gold opener. Like I said, that good econ portals and everything. So I definitely agree it's worse, but I wouldn't generally call it a bad augment, because it's going to have its good spots, and in those good spots, it you know, it can really work out for you.
All right, Subzeroark, what do you think?
Yeah, I completely agree with Connor that it still has good spots, and that's what level up at 2-1 has always been about. I feel like the average case scenario for level up at 2-1 is like, I don't know, through the history of TFT has actually been like on average not very good. Because if you're getting level up at 2-1 with not like an econ opener, it's just not great. But you know, you have your full gold opener, or you have like your Scuttle Puddle, all of a sudden this augment becomes insane. So I feel like in the average case scenario, this augment just isn't great on 2-1, because of the fact that, you know, like, you know, you don't have the gold to make it work. It's sort of like awkward to push levels if you don't have that gold, because like, are you going to aggressively push levels with it when you're low gold? Like, no, not really. Also, a lot of people just sort of play this augment incorrectly. I talked a lot last set to Garchomp Pro, who made a video actually about all of the like econ augments and how to play them, and he is like the biggest level up hater in certain spots. He would always be like, this guy took level up in this spot and they just used it to go like fast 7 and rolled. Like, what are they doing? What are they doing? So I feel like level up is one of the most like spot dependent augments in the game. And then the other part of it is just like, how is the meta? How many, like how strong are the 5 costs? And like, yeah, I feel like the 5 costs got hit pretty hard this patch. So yeah, I definitely say it's gone down a lot, and I would agree with Mortdog here.
Okay, so an agree from Subzeroark. Natures.
It depends on how you want to say bad. I'm kind of with Connor here again, but how I'm gonna word this is it's a high roll augment. Like if your spot is high roll, then the augment can become incredibly good. Like if you are like, Yeah, that's I think that's probably just the best way to put it. Like if you have a full gold opener and you're playing ace, so like that's probably insane. If you are if you get offered it later and you're full win streak, and you know that you can go fast 9, or even fast 10, like it's gonna be still probably incredibly good. But those spots are like probably less than 10% of your games. So I think because of that, I think I have to probably say that that's an agree, but it's again asterisk there.
I'm just gonna agree right now that I think it's generally quite bad right now on 22-1, in particular to some of the other prismatics you can get later in the game. Though, I mean, absolutely, if your spot is great for it, you should be taking it. So I think it's interesting. I think it's a hot take, but the more I think about it, the more I feel like it's actually pretty correct. But we're looking at the chat, and chat disagrees. Chat, you don't want to stand between us and chat and their 5 costs. So
yeah, Dragon King players.
Looks
fine.
like 62% disagreed. But we got another gameplay oriented one, which I think is even spicier. A lot of talk about this new portal called Hall of the Nine. Hall of the Nine is better for competitive than people give it credit. Still RNG heavy, but how people can play around the weird stuff is skillful. Oh. All right, start off with Subzeroark.
No, man. High RNG means very often less room for skill expression, especially the version of this in the previous patch where you're just playing stage 2. I saw an egregious game where I was watching Joe Bookmark's stream, and he goes to Hall of the Nine. He has like an Ionia opener, and he's like, "Oh, what am I gonna do here?" And he just gets dropped like a set 2, and it was like the first time he'd ever played in Halls of the Nine, and he was like, "Oh, does everyone else get a tailored 2-star 2 cost?" No. A lot of people just get absolute garbage. Or like you go to stage 4 and there's someone who has a Zeri game, they get dropped a 2-star Zeri. Yeah, that's not much skill expression there. I think it's a little bit better this patch, where they made it so it's like the stage -1 and it gives less gold. So I think it's still better. But no, I think there's just too much variance between like the high roll and low roll that I would say it's not skillful. Yeah, like playing around a random spat and some stuff is like, it makes for interesting games, but I would not say that it's always the most skillful.
All right, Connor.
Yeah, I definitely have to hard disagree as well. Like Sub-Zero was saying, the variance is just too like high. Like there's just too big of a differential. Like conceivably, there's some lobbies where everyone actually gets a lot more resources, but they actually all have something that they could do with it. There's like conceivably a world where you could say that I think it would be a little bit more high skill cap for just like that one situation. But I think that situation would occur a very small amount of times.
Interesting. Okay, Natures.
Yeah, this is an easy hard disagree. I think they already said everything. RNG can make the game harder because like it can be harder to find the right decision, but that doesn't actually change whether it's good for competitive. It can just give massive imbalances in the game. So no, this is a huge disagree for me.
Okay, so it's funny because I actually would agree if they did use a different word for like better different phrase than better for competitive. I think if it was like All the Nine is like underrated in terms of like the way you can use skill expression, I think I probably would be like on a light agree with that. I think there are interesting things. It tests like your ability to kind of like spontaneously react to like a crazy influx of power. So I would say that it's like slightly underrated in that respect, but like I don't know if it's like, good for competitive. I don't actually want Big Bang Galaxy from set 3 or Fortune's Favor or the Draven meta to kind of be like it. And All the Nine feels very similar in that vein where it almost feels like we're not even like building up towards anything. We're just like, let's cut to the straight chase where everyone gets really strong out of nowhere and throw the build up out the window. And I think that build up, playing stage 2 meaningfully and stage 3 thoughtfully, making sure you're transitioning to stage 4 correctly is like a really important part for competitive TFT. So, last but not least, this one is not on the script, so it might throw Natures a little bit off. EMEA has started a policy which requires all players to use a cam on day 4. North America should adopt a similar policy ASAP. Let's start off with Nature, shall we? As one of the people that would have to ask these players to do so.
Okay. I have to think about how to answer this. So, first of all, I will say that it shouldn't be a surprise that conversations regarding this have existed and are ongoing. But what I will say is I'm going to disagree with this because it says as soon as possible. Because there's one... I know players that are going to leave competitive TFT when this is required. I say when, I should say if, sorry. If this is required, I know players are going to leave competitive TFT. It would be really, really messed up for them to have their previous tournaments in this set be discounted because of that. Because they didn't have that equation going in. So ASAP I do not agree with whatsoever. But I think that there's room for this in some way, whether it's negative incentive or positive incentive in the future.
Okay. All right. Thanks for that answer there. Subzeroark.
I would say agree. I mean, this is not something that I think about too much as someone who, always streams with a cam, and like, I'm kind of a streamer, so I'm like very, very used to it. So I guess I don't feel the sort of like negative or the area where like someone would say, oh, I really don't want to stream with cam. But I mean, it makes the moment so much cooler. I'm thinking of, I don't know why I remember seeing this. Oh, it's because it was in the Liquid announcement for when Replay was signed. But the World Championship win, when Replay wins the World Championship, there's the caster saying, and Replay wins the World Championship, and they show his cam, they like bring his cam up higher, and it's just a picture of his face. Like, why can't we see, Replay's reaction to him winning the World Championship? And then he turned it on afterwards to, like give the interview. Maybe he was nervous or something like that. I don't know. I think like there should probably be some room for like legitimate, like reasons why someone maybe has a reason why they can't put their cam on. But I think like the majority of players should. Like it's just so much better if you can actually see, a player's reaction when they win. So I would say definitely agree with like some small room for like, if someone has a legitimate reason that they, can't use a cam.
All right. And finally, Connor.
As someone who this policy would be kind of bad for, probably, I make a lot of nervous mistakes, and I think this would probably accentuate that. I would still have to agree. Like, I do want what's best for the scene, and I feel that, the experience that people would have, with player cams would be a lot better if it was required. That being said, Natures did convince me a little bit about the ASAP thing. I wouldn't want players' previous tournaments being validated because they were not in a position to stream cam.
Yeah, fair enough. I think that was a very compelling argument from Natures. I do think that I think the product is just worse for not having the cam. So Subzeroark summarized a really good example. I could rattle you off a dozen more, having casted many TFT events at this point and covered it. I do think that we're gonna get there anyways, right? I think last time we had Kerm on the show, he's like, dude, just like he was actually saying like they should just make cam mandatory. I don't use it because it's an advantage for me, but like we're gonna get there one day, so we should just do it anyways. We'll see. I look forward to the day that happens because I would love to see Setsuko's wins on cameras. But obviously that's just not there. So we'll see. Maybe it changed the landscape entirely. Connor could be right. Like all of a sudden, people who can't perform on camera. But that's like the point of competition. My counterpoint to that is like competition is supposed to put you under pressure and see if you can perform. That's the whole point of it. And I think that's what makes it such an interesting product. It looks like we do have slightly more agrees and disagrees, but it was actually like a 60-40 split. So for the most part, we do have some people who are sympathetic. I think it's probably because Nature did a good job convincing them that there is problems in this statement, but that's the point of agree. We can choose to agree with as much or disagree as much as you want. With that, thank you, gentlemen, for a great segment. The last thing we do is just some cleanup, our last things to do around this podcast. So the first is perhaps one of the most important things, which is the fantasy draft results, featuring a victory lap by yours truly, Mr. Frodan. 330 points. That's a brand new record for a 2-day fantasy score because my team crushed day one. I had 5 out of the top like 9 players in day one, and they smoked the rest of everybody else. And then Goobums was able to actually put up a really good score as well. But unfortunately, I think I think I high rolled my fantasy like crazy. Sad to say, but Bryce finished last place again.
That's a rough set.
This is the worst string of fantasy performances Bryce has ever had, but it's okay. That means he's due for a big high roll the next time. I'm pretty sure. Couple of announcements we want to make. The first is that the competitive TFT subreddit, love it or hate it, it's definitely transformed, especially in set 9, but they need help. They're looking for subreddit moderators. So if you're a person that is willing to specialize in a specific area or like apply, please help out. And I know the opinion of the competitive TFT subreddit, especially on Twitch. A lot of people love to dunk on it, talk about how it's like infested with like plat and diamond players and blah, blah, blah. It's like a waste of time, but it's still a really helpful resource for people to talk about TFT, and we want these places to exist. I still try to hop in there and contribute whenever I feel like I'm willing to entertain the conversation. And so if you are also a passionate person about, subreddit, like, browsing Reddit and moderation of anything like that, we could really use more volunteers. I'm not affiliated with them at all. This is just, I saw them post this. So if you feel so inclined, it's a great resource, especially for people around that mid level looking to go into an advanced player. Please feel free to reach out. The last thing is this weekend, there is a TFT LAN happening in Southern California for North America. It's called Calculated Loss. It's hosted by Boise's. Connor's actually participating, right? You're heading out?
Yep. Yeah, I have a bye to day 2, so I'll be playing on Sunday.
Awesome.
Nice.
Who else is going to be competing there?
Well, Ace is coming back. He's going to play in the day 1. The other players that I was looking at were Ripple Overdrive's going to be playing there. Cambuli's going to be playing. And then there's a handful of challenger players. A group of the lab members are going to be there. I got my cousin to join. He's going to be there on day 1, coaching him up.
All right, sounds good. So there's definitely a handful of known players that maybe you'll enjoy, and also perhaps a really good like warm up tournament for to get ready for mid set in a little bit over a week and a half from now, right? It's actually coming up pretty soon. Yep. So lots to look forward to in particular. And of course, we're going to probably do the mid-set preview episode, but Bryce won't be able to join us. So make sure to check that out as well. And just like that, we are in the final parts of the show. So let's get some final words, any last minute thoughts and comments. We'll start off with Connor.
Yeah, just thanks for having me. It's been really cool to both perform well enough to have the qualifier points and have a chance to go into regionals this time, and to also get a spot on the podcast. It's been great. I'm a big fan. I watch all the episodes.
Awesome, man. Thanks for always being in chat, and hopefully you do well enough that we have to invite you back. That'd be really cool to look forward to. Subzeroark.
Yeah, just to mirror what Connor said, absolutely. Thanks for having me on. I'm a huge fan. The only downside to this is I usually like listen to the episodes on my phone when I'm like on the way to the gym or like doing something. So and I'm not gonna be able to watch the episode. So
you could.
I mean, you could.
Yeah, I'll just listen back to it.
You could do what Bryce sometimes does, which is like watch it back to read chat.
But yeah, I don't know. It's so fun to be on here. I mean, so crazy because, just to be someone on the outside, always watching these episodes and then have a great tourney performance and be here. I mean, that's something that's so cool about the TFT community, that we have all of these sort of like grassroots, like podcasts and things like that. And the community is so welcoming and nice. I appreciated your raid and Emily's raid the other nights. Like, I love the TFT community. So just shout out TFT community.
Awesome. And finally, Natures.
So I actually meant to call out something earlier on, and I didn't. So Subzero set a record in the tournament. I just want that to be known. So Subzero has the most points earned in a tournament for North America, period. Which
from day one all the way through?
For what it's worth, like the people that are auto-qualified can't get that record because they're auto-qualified second weekend. But this is there's been 8 of these cups with this number of games. That's over 1,000 tournament runs, and yours is number 1 at the top of those 1,000 runs. So like you like crushed it. You're 150 points. The second is 145. So you might hold that record for a while because everyone's between 140 145. So you're gonna hold that for a while. So that's like super.
Yeah. A new record. How do you feel? We need some response from that.
So, yeah, nothing outside of that. Thank you so much, Dan, for having me on. I had a blast. Loved talking with some people that I haven't got to talk to yet, so that was sweet. Thank you, Connor and Subzero. But yeah, that's it from me. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Wait, I need a response from Subzeroark. You said the new record. Victory speech, a toast.
Sure.
Okay, isn't it kind of crazy? Because I kind of ran it down on day 3. Like, I'm actually kind of surprised about that. I mean, obviously, I did well on days 1 and 2, but isn't the like room for doing well actually like even higher than that? Like, it's like, I don't know, other people need to like up their game or something. But I'll take it. I'll take it for sure. That's,
I think you're underestimating
hard,
how like, you got like
hard.
third on a
It's hard out
128
here, man.
and then first on a 64. I think you're underestimating how well you did.
Also, other people were running it down day 3. A lot of people didn't make it, man. So the fact that you're able to narrowly squeeze in at 28 is still very commendable. So, yeah. And on that note, thanks for watching this episode. Make sure to check out our content at youtube.com/@DTIYDK. Or if you want the audio only version, I know there's a lot of people say they want to listen on Spotify, for example. You can check out anchor.fm/DTIYDK. And the next episode is going to be the mid-set preview where we get in depth. I'm going to see if I can hook Ray. Ray's going to actually travel and be on the couch with me to fill in for Bryce. That's going to be a really good time. So hope you guys look forward to that. For Frodan Natures, Connor, and Subzeroark, thank you so much for watching the Shurima Cup reviewed episode, and we'll see you next time for more TFT action.